Hello friends, welcome back to another Value Vintage Cards video. So today's reveal is not a reveal. It's more of a set review and a little bit of a topical coverage. So it seems of late there's a couple of topics that are kind of intermixed maybe when covering this. One is the vocabulary, labeling, titling. Do we call things oddball? And I think almost maybe a co-issue and a similar debate topic, and maybe a solution, I don't know, whatever, is the idea of rare and scarce. So I think by, textbook definition, something that's rare is in short supply, and something that's scarce is probably having demand exceeding supply. So I don't teach economics, but looking at kind of the push-pull of things in those different directions. So scarce to me a lot of times is where we see like investor grade labels. There's very few PSA 10s of card X, or you'll see pop, there's only 3 at this grade or 2 higher, or things like that with the listings and labels when they're trying to sell something. So that's a little bit of a it's a scarcity. It's saying there's very little opportunity to get something like this, and typically that's where you see there's none else listed in a similar range. I do find myself drawn, and maybe it's a little bit the same argument. I like rare probably more than scarce. This set itself, what I'm showing you right now, the Wilson Franks 1954, is really not the most rare set out there. When you look at the populations, PSA, SGC, a card like Ted Williams, I want to say there's close to 200 graded with PSA, and another less than 100, but getting there with SGC. So you're talking 300 graded. That's not counting Beckett or any other kind of like offshoots. And then we'll call them oddball grading companies if they're not PSA and SGC. Let's just start that and let that be a thing. Sarcasm runneth over. But, seriously, it's, and then you've got raw ones. So there's hundreds and hundreds for sure, whether it's 300, 400, 500. I don't know if there's be like a hot dog factory find or something, and you'll have another how many Ted Williams found that are all graded at 8s or 9s or something. But for the most part, let's assume there's hundreds. To me, that means there's probably one for sale every couple months. And like the Ted straight ahead here, I jumped on that one because I thought that was a clean enough, nice enough version. Yes, it's a 1. It's a well-deserved 1. My camera's having a good day. So you can see those creases. Such an iconic, amazing card, though. Just ridiculous. So, and actually, for my back people, that's a good back. Even the centering's fine, and I literally don't care. I mean, these are, hot dog food issues from the 50s. What's exciting for me is to find a set like this where there is only hundreds instead of thousands and thousands. So, if you look at the 54 Bowman that's supposed to be exotically rare and, was pulled and wasn't released for the entire year even, the 54 Bowman of Ted Williams has well over 1,000 graded, I believe, just by PSA. So that doesn't count all the raws, all the SGCs, all the BVGs, all the, everything else that's out there. So to me, and that's still rare, scarce, wherever that line crosses of, low supply and highly sought after and rarely available. But to me, I'm almost going to pull the scarcity card on a different direction. And I believe I saw that in a video recently. Maybe it was Rick with vintage, whatever you're going to call them, cards. And, just mentioning the idea, I mean, he was looking like a, Hornsby or maybe a Wagner or Cobb or something like that, something really high end and way pre-war. But when you start looking at these cards, instead of saying, this is one of 3 graded this high, with something like Ted, because of the price range, you get that in high grade, it's 5 figures. That is a really, really pricey card when you get it into a nice condition. So I look at it the other way. Like, I in a scarcity mindset, I in a rare or scarce discussion, I need that in a low grade. I prefer it in a palatable, tolerable low grade, but I need a strong 1. So, and you can see, obviously everything I'm showing, the high grade's a 1.5. But, they all are, that's actually a really nice card, but with some paper loss and some tapey stuff going on. So back is clean. It's a nice Nelly Fox. Another player I collect pretty hard. But when you're shopping in these lower grade cards, you kind of have to find things that have some type of major issue. Gil Hodges is freaking gorgeous, honestly. If you told me that thing was centered just that way and there's only borders on 2 sides, I would say that card is like 4. The corners still aren't quite perfect, but to me, that's what a 54 card should look like. The colors are fantastic. Really cool image. The floating hot dogs above his shoulder like it's his conscience is just so cool. Gilbert Ray Hodges. I used to love reading stuff like that. I knew when everybody was born. I was like that. I was like, yeah, okay, so Gooden's born in 64, Clemens is 62, Bonds is 64. I think Bobby Bonilla was 63. You just I read the back of cards like it was my textbook for school, and that's how I got to know everything about, kind of like the players of the day. Wade Boggs, I think, was 58. He was a little bit older rookie. That I always wondered if he could get to 3,000 hits just because he started when he was like 24, but wasn't really a full season, just kind of going through the math of things like that, which obviously he was a machine, so he made it to 3,000. But, looking at these cards, when you're looking at the condition that you need, it becomes pretty darn rare. Everyone know that? Bob Feller had 2 middle names. He's really filling up the back of a baseball card. That's pretty cool. That's a good 1.5 too. But when you're looking at these populations and you're looking at what's rare, what's scarce, that's actually really my question. I am not offended at the word oddball, but if we don't want to use something different, I wouldn't mind just calling it like rare issues, because that's my brain is drawn to rarity. So 54 tops, pretty, mainstream, higher produced, hard to have scarce cards. I suppose, then you get into the vocab and your definition. For some folks, a Hank Aaron rookie is pretty scarce. There's not, you don't have one, and the local card shop doesn't have one either. So therefore, maybe it's scarce. I don't know. You don't see a ton of those at the local show at the mall. Maybe that's scarce. I don't know. For me, I am drawn to rare. And Wilson Franks, I will not complete the set. One of the things that's cool about this set is, and you can tell it's rare, and that the set itself drives part of the value and hobby interest. Yeah, my Campy's a little rough, but I got this for a steal at Strongsville, so I am happy to have this roughed up beast in my collection. It's still a gorgeous card. So that's really all I have for Wilson Franks. But when you look through the set, you'll notice even players, there's definitely more Hall of Famers. And Enos Slaughter wouldn't be bad. Maybe I'll eventually add a couple more. But even the players that are not ever going to be Hall of Very Good even, are highly graded. So they're highly graded, and they're selling well on eBay and auctions and wherever else, just because it's taking away from who's on the card to just the fact there's only so many of them. And then you get into having set collectors because it's a fairly small set. So when you're talking about getting dozens of cards to complete a set, it's a whole lot easier. So then you do start wanting to pick up some of those very good and even just, kind of short career, moderate players. But yeah, just wanted to toss out probably no answers and a few more questions. What is your definition? How do you define rare versus scarce? For me, this is probably about the cutoff of what I consider to be rare. When I start seeing hundreds of something, I really love collecting cards that are less than 100, less than 50 is really fun. And when you get into like the 20s is when you say, okay, it's kind of now or never. I'm going to jump and get this item. So rare versus scarce as an idea. And just a thought, I mean, are you guys offended by the word oddball? Is that an awkward word? Is that a not appropriate term and definition? I usually just say it's a rare issue. It's a little bit of a longer explanation, but rarity is what is most appealing to me. Scarcity is based on buyer interest. Rarity is based on you have no choice. There are 18 of those, and maybe this is still fair to say that Ted Williams is there's 300 of them graded. That's rounding up. Maybe that is still rare. So I'm not sure where that line is. I'm not sure if is rare less than 100, is rare less than 1,000, is rare somewhere around Wilson Franks. 1954 Wilson Franks set is pretty darn popular right now, which is going to create some scarcity, but it's still, no matter what you do, there's not more of them being made. There could be a few more of them graded and found, but not thousands, maybe dozens. So just some things to think about. So I would definitely appreciate some chatter, some discussion on this topic. What do you think of the Wilson Franks set? I love it. I think it's a fantastic set. All 5 of these are kind of in the cool favorite list for me. Feller I always thought was neat. Campy I feel like that's just iconic. The Ted is a top whatever card, really, for a lot of people. Hodges is probably underappreciated. Those colors just pop. If you've not looked at that card, if you need a good Gil Hodges, that's something else I do that I'll just add by ending a little bit longer. But I love when I can find things like Nellie Fox and Gil Hodges, because those are players that are typically not expensive to collect. 50 something tops of those guys is $12 at most. It's probably a lunch price. So when you can find something that's a little bit more, let's use the words rare and scarce or oddball, I don't know, whatever. When you can find those cards that are unique and tougher to come by, they're going to bring a little more value. So it's kind of fun that you can put, a couple $100 into a card and know that it's a truly valuable Nellie Fox and Gil Hodges, just to kind of, build that player profile in your collection and have something that's got some value, that's got their name attached to it. But yeah, just curious where everyone falls. What is the, what is that line? What's rare? What's scarce? Is oddball okay? Is oddball not an appropriate term? So I'm just going to call them rare cards for now. Every so often I'll get a scarce card, but for the most part I like rare. So that's my turn and bend on the topic. So I will catch you all on the next video. I look forward to some fun comments here. So have at it. I'll see you guys next time.